Welcome to WYCD Wicked, that stands for What You Can Do. How are you tonight? It is a Saturday. Theoretically, that means I'm supposed to be salty, but frankly, I just want to chill out and look at a couple of clips with you. Just no pressure. Want to have a look. In part because I'm as bushed as the dogs around me, and in part because I enjoy it. How y'all doing? How is the night treating you? How's the weekend going so far? Let's have a look. Rex Trek, good to see you. Wicked Foxy Dragon, hello. Soul Life, hello there. We may be a few viewers light tonight, says Soul Life. I saw some uprising earlier. An uprising? Oh no. If I got folks mad at me, that's par for the course. As long as they're mad at me for not being a good enough lefty and not for not being right wing. Rex Trek, that was good. It was about young gay men of color. Wait, what now? TV show? I don't see the reference. Wicked Foxy Dragon, Jake, you are going to talk about Noah's Ark. Why does that seem very familiar? Yeah, you got me thinking about it. Mike Johnson supported something, I think, called the Ark Encounter or Ark Encounters with Ken Ham, and part of what got me into Owen Morgan, of all people, was his interest in talking about what a con artist Ken Ham is and what a scam Ark Encounters is. And just like that got me into, that was part of what made me a fan of XJW content, just getting that perspective. It also seems to be what got him interested in local politics, or rather, politics in general. And since then, he's become a very useful voice on I guess, crossroads. Soul Life saying, "Stop kicking puppies, Jake." Well, listen, I never do it intentionally. Wireless Mike, Christy Z is bothered over some things said in the last show, and apparently she's not alone. Oh, well, fair enough. I would assume it would be my seeming dismissal of 4,000 dead children. I feel bad about. But the point I was making was I stand by. I just wish I would have made it better. It's not that those deaths aren't important. It's that we need to either address the logical part of people's brains or the emotional part of people's brains. And it frustrates me a great deal when we take a lot of care to address the logical part of people's brains and then score an own goal by switching gears to the emotional part. It ruins, in my opinion, it puts people on the defensive and ruins everything that came before it, because the logical part of your brain is a dam built by twigs, and it's not a sturdy thing. And the emotional part of your brain is the flowing water, and it is constantly rushing. Or at least it is often rushing. But, if she's angry about it, good. It means she disagrees strongly, and I expect I'll hear about it, and either I'll get better at pitching what it is I'm trying to communicate, or my incorrect information will be corrected, and I'll become a better person. So That is a privilege I'm getting used to, but I am by no means slow to abuse. I feel like just by talking with y'all, I have a much better understanding of just how the world works, frankly. The kind of stuff that used to take me just weeks to understand, like a political conundrum or whatever, now takes days because I get 30 people over the course of a video offering opinions. I enjoy it quite a bit. Let's get to some of the actual content. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, Rextrack. Wireless mic. Let me jump back up. I couldn't really get the specifics, but it has to do with not enough support for a ceasefire. I think that was part of it, Jake. Yeah, I understand that. That's fine. That's fine. She's been a huge supporter of the show so far, but there's nothing that requires any of you to support that much with even just with your presence and with your thumbs up, or every night. If you feel I personally earned a timeout of 10 or 12 shows, yeah, put me in the timeout box. That's okay. Part of this show is embracing being earnestly wrong and holding on to the earnestness and letting go of the wrongness. So I look forward to an opportunity to become correct. I'll tell you this, though. She's a sweetheart, so I don't see a scenario wherein she's the one that's wrong. I don't see that. I think as the presenter, in the worst case scenario, what has happened is I have failed to communicate well enough. That's the worst case scenario for Christie's argument. For mine, the worst case scenario is that I have a stupid opinion, or at least an incorrect opinion. Let's say. Speaking of, let's get this Ark Encounter thing out of the way. I'm not even sure this is the right video. I'm not even sure we will post this VOD later, but I think it's the right video, and I want y'all to see why I fell in love with the kind of content that Owen Morgan makes. This here is Owen Morgan from 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Talking about Ark Encounters. Ken Ham is an Australian gentleman who, in the proud tradition of Australian conmen, has come over to the United States to con. He cons Christians. Specifically, he built a theme park that is supposed to be, let me see if I can pitch it more concisely than Morgan did. It's supposed to be, they call it a museum, and it's supposed to be like a replacement for the Smithsonian. It's where you take kids on a field trip if you want to convince them that a literal interpretation of the Bible is a legitimate way to run a science class. It is not. It just isn't. I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but it is not. It's not a scientific manual, and there is not physical evidence for a literal interpretation of the Bible. You have a right to believe in that, but it is inadvisable to teach that as science. However, a whole lot of people justify a whole lot of things that they do based on a literal interpretation of the Bible, and hence Ark Encounters exists. Here's Owen Morgan talking about what it is and giving an update from 2 years ago, and I'll tell you why the whole world is about to get a lot more familiar with Ark Encounters.
The next article I wanted to talk about is titled Ark Encounter ticket sales went up in September, but pre-COVID numbers were higher. This is written by Hemant Mehta on the Friendly Atheist website, so I figured we'd give it a look and see what it had to say. Attendance at Ark Encounter is finally picking up after a year lost to the pandemic. That's not the creationists' fault, obviously, but the recovery has been slow for them just like everyone else, and the numbers today are still not as high as they used to be. And a recent attempt to boost summertime attendance hasn't worked at all. Thanks to public record request by local paleontologist Dan Phelps, we now have the numbers for September. You can read more background about how it's calculated.
This is not exactly a monumental thought, but this video is from 2 years ago, and it's talking about the pandemic as a long-term thing. A year of pandemic, it says. We had ourselves a rough time of it, didn't we? Here's hoping for better days.
Here. I actually remember reading about this, and it's pretty complex, but let's see if I can... Yeah, actually, in fact, I read this specific article. Let me just read through a little bit of this one. The numbers are finally in for Ark Encounter's attendance over its entire second year of existence, and wait for it, creationist Ken Ham was exaggerating its popularity. This one came out in 2018, and it was written by Hemant Mehta also. This is basically the original article about Ark Encounter attendance. It says, Northern Kentucky's Noah's Ark replica attracted 1 million visitors during its second year of operations, officials said. So according to Ken Ham, basically, they attracted 1 million visitors during their second year. But let's read what Hemant Mehta had to say. Remember, this article is from 2018, and it's basically an explanation for how they figured out how many visitors they got legally, because if they don't release the information, we don't have it necessarily, right? Well, this is what Hemant Mehta says here. 1 million people, that's much less than even Ham predicted he'd see. More on that in a moment. But it was also a useless statistic. What mattered were the number of paying customers. You know, the people who contribute to the local economy. On that measure, the city of Williamstown wasn't nearly as optimistic. That's because they had something much more reliable than Ken Ham's word. Due to a 50-cent per ticket safety fee that pays for ambulances, fire trucks, etc., that was imposed last summer, they know exactly how many paid visitors actually came to the Ark. The numbers were...
This is hugely important. It is important what you're about to hear because it gets to the heart of who these people are. Right now, you're just hearing about a minor scandal with a local tourist trap that it's not even it's hard to say it's a local tourist trap. A tourist trap advertised everywhere Ken Ham can advertise it, but inflated to be some grand thing, and it's a con. It's all a con. It's always a con. The leaders of these movements on the right, I am now convinced, none of them, not the pastors, not the politicians, none of them believe what they are talking about. Not a one. I would be curious to hear who you think actually believes what they're talking about. None that I've seen do I believe actually are themselves believers, because they lie to their followers. They lie to the people that they are trying to convince so often. If they believed it, why would they have to lie? Here's the specifics. But just understand, 2 years ago, Owen Morgan could see this guy for the con artist that he was. This little online rag could see this guy for the con man that he was. Now you're about to see the specifics. Just like Trump will say, oh, there's so many you couldn't count them. Oh, we get millions of visitors or whatever with whatever business proposition he's talking about that he wants to be seen as a popular thing. Ken Ham did the exact same con to the exact same marks, except for that little detail, a 50-cent fee, just 50-cent fee per ticket to help pay for ambulances and what have you, because we live in a place that charges for such things. Okay, let's see what those honest numbers revealed. I bet it's still got plenty of attendance. People take their kids there on field trips mandatorily all the time.
So bad they needed to readjust their budget. Ouch. After not collecting the anticipated amount from safety assessment fee in 2 months, or wait, in 11 months or 2 months? I think that's, I can't tell if that's a 1 or an I. Williamstown has scaled back its projected revenue in its 2018-19 fiscal year budget. The Ark brought in $374,295 in its 11 months, I guess is what that is. This is Hemant Mehta again. If you do the math, that meant 748,590 tickets were sold over the first 11 months of the fiscal year. Not even close to 1 million. Either Ark Encounter needed to pull in more than 250,000 visitors in the month of June, or they were giving away a hell of a lot of free passes. So that's basically how they figured it out. They figured it out by looking at the public information about the safety fee, how much the city earned on the 50-cent per ticket safety fee, and then they multiply that number to figure out exactly how many tickets were sold, pretty much. That is how we know the Ark Encounter's actual numbers and don't have to rely on information from Ken Ham himself. He said there were over 1 million their second year. It was actually closer to 750,000. Okay, let's get back to the original article that I was looking at here. The bottom line is Ark Encounter had 64,301 paying visitors in September. That is significantly higher than the 44,000 they had last September after the play shut down due to COVID on March 17th, 2020. Then opened back up later that summer. It means that their attempts to draw people in are finally on an upswing, though this month's numbers still don't match the ones they saw in September of 2019. So this is a chart that we can look at. Hemant Mehta says, here are all the attendance numbers we know, along with the safety fee that Answers in Genesis has paid to the city of Williamstown. The public nature of that fee is how we know the attendance numbers at all. If you look at this chart, this is the month on the left side, January through December. And we have a column for 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021. The 5 years that they've been in operation. On the right side of the chart, it shows us the increase and decrease amount. So right now, we're talking about September 2021, and it looks like it's an increase from the previous year by 19,730 attendees. That's how much it increased. Unfortunately, in my opinion, I don't think that creationism is getting more popular as time goes on, especially now. A lot of people have left their churches behind after the pandemic hit. They just didn't feel comfortable going to church, or their churches shut down, or any number of other things. And church attendance has dropped through the floor in the past year, year and a half, 2 years. It's dropped through the floor. More people are identifying as religious nuns now than ever. Before I continue, I wanted to mention something. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, you can support.
Now listen, he's gotten a lot better with his sales pitch. But you know what? I'll do a sales pitch for him. Why not? No. I still want the info. I think this is the video I wanted. But let me do a sales pitch for Owen Morgan real quick. Let me tell you about this cat, Owen. You know, he lives, I think, in New York now, with his daughter. He didn't used to live there. He used to live in the South. He was in a family of Jehovah's Witnesses. He stopped believing, and they shunned him. They wouldn't have anything to do with him His mother refused to talk to him. His siblings refused to talk to him. He got on drugs on account of being desperately sad and having no real idea of how the world worked because he was kept away from it, and having everyone he ever loved abandon him. He wound up with a daughter for whom he got clean. And he built his life up slowly. And as he did that, as he got his life back together, he started talking about the church and how it hurt him, how it tore his family apart. That church specifically. And then he got braver, started sticking up for other people, ex-Mormons, people that escaped all kinds of cults. He started talking to Scientologists. He started just speaking up on behalf of, frankly, anybody who was being treated unfairly, and most importantly, unfairly by irrational people. Then it hit home again, back when he lived in the South. His daughter was in a class that was preaching ignorance. They were forcing Bible lessons in school, essentially. Now, I'm not saying. Let me clarify. Talking about the Bible in school does not equal ignorance. Those are two separate things. But what the teacher was saying, by using the Bible as justification, first of all, I think most Christians would disagree with. Second of all, was a blatant breaking of the rules. He got run out of town. He stood up when he found out that was happening. He asked the school to ask the teacher to stop doing that, which he was correct to do, which he was right to do. He got run out of town. This is back when he was starting off. He did not have money to move. He was proper poor, trying to raise a daughter by himself. Life's doing great now for Owen. He kept plugging away. He's doing fantastic. But he is a good man. Damn good man. And when he tells me that there is something fishy going on with Ark Encounters, it is something I listen to very closely, because he has a deep personal understanding of these kinds of con artists specifically. Let's hear him finish it up.
Anyways, the point is, creationism is falling in popularity generally. I think it probably hit its peak in 2017 and 2018 when Ken Ham originally opened this thing. And he's most likely, I'm guessing, never going to see numbers like he saw those first couple of years. Even if we completely recover from the pandemic, he probably won't see those types of numbers ever again. I'm guessing. That's speculative, but we'll see what happens. Let's keep reading the article, see what Hemant Mehta had to say. Over the past year, Ark Encounter had to postpone on-site conferences. Like other tourist attractions, they've also missed out on spring break trips, summer vacations, and warmer weather attendees in general. Yeah, I guess this is not a great time to open the Ark Encounter for fiscal reasons. Most workers at the Ark were also temporarily laid off. They finally reopened on June 7th, 2020, which, by the way, was too fucking early. I'll tell you right now, we didn't even have vaccines yet by that point. But until now, very few people had any desire to visit, presumably due to COVID. I'm surprised, honestly. I would have thought that this market would have been the least affected market out of any, because the people that are going to the Creation Museum and the Ark Encounter are the exact types of people who refuse to believe that COVID is a problem in the first place. The exact same audience. Let's keep reading. This is Hemant Mehta again. This is also interesting because Ham spent most of August promoting his 40 Days and 40 Nights of Gospel Music Festival, which he billed as the largest Christian music festival in the world. Ugh, God, that sounds awful. Looks like people just didn't care, at least not enough to boost the attendance numbers to their earlier highs. Keep in mind that the Ark's parent company, Crosswater Canyon, received between $1 million and $2 million from the Paycheck Protection Program. And Ham also raised at least $1.135 million in a separate fundraiser to offset COVID-related losses. Finally, remember that the actual attendance is higher than these numbers represent because kids get in for free, as do members with lifetime passes. But giving away freebies to children and life members doesn't help the local economy as much as drawing in first-time customers who are ready to spend money, or conference attendees who are there for another reason.
Well, shoot. I just realized that doesn't end where I thought it did. He goes on to say, if Ken Ham's Creation Museum is not doing well, or Ark Encounters is not doing well. I thought it was the one where he mentions Mike Johnson. There is some video, and I will work to find it. I might still put this out nonetheless, but because I like how he talks about this stuff. There is some video where he discusses the financial troubles of Ark Encounters and how it is basically fleecing the government to stay in operation or to keep Ham's coffers full. Darn it. I'll keep looking. I was so confident that was the one. Anyway, the relevance now is that Mike Johnson had a hand in that. Mike Johnson has a record of scamming constituents. Ugh. So the relevance being, we can expect him to try inartfully to do the same again. Piggy Butt, hello. And the Indigenous Heretic, good to see you. Good to see you. Public utility, ooh, like abuse of drugs to cover up trauma, yeah. Piggy Butt, oh, thank you for bringing this up. The Clergy Project is people stuck in religious jobs who stop believing but stay where they are for various reasons, and the religious are better for it, even though they don't know. You know what? That's true. And thank you for bringing up the Clergy Project. I will probably try to think of a way to promote them. I can't think of a way to do it right now, top of my head, because I have my normal hesitance to not screw things up by getting involved, which is a thing that is a nightmare of mine. But it's a wonderful organization. For example, if you're a Jehovah's Witness and you work in Bethel, you're not really making money, but you're working yourself just about to death. You might need help. Same thing if you're in Sea Org. Soul Life. I love Internet Today. Interesting. Is that a show? Rex Track. How can he see the screen so clear that far away? It is a giant screen. Ooh, Pendulous Dragon. Religion has ruined many lives in my family. Yeah. I mean, religion is like... It's like alcohol or exercise or fill in the blank with any activity. How much of it and what kind all affect your experience. There is such a thing as good religion done badly, or even bad religion done well. The Pendulous Dragon, the fact alone that there is insurance churches can buy to protect them from pedo cases against clergy should tell you all you need to know. Oh, fair enough. Looney Tunes, good to see you. Let me leap over here for a second. You know, folks, I'm not done. I'm not done with Ken Ham. I'm sorry. I can't find the Owen Morgan video. But I flippin' I want to talk about this. I think it's important to appreciate how much of a con artist Ken Ham is, Ark Encounters is, and how Mike Johnson is. Frankly, I'll tell you this: I'm not even convinced that Mike Johnson. Yeah, let me set it aside. It's a very serious accusation I was going to make, but it's more how I feel, not really something. So I'm gonna withhold making that accusation publicly, and I'll be champing at the bit to make it if I have the information that I'm looking for. Anyway, here's Mike Johnson talking about a well-known scam. Oh, Jake, you're killing me. Mike Johnson defended Noah's Ark attraction in Kentucky before becoming U.S. Speaker. This is from the Kentucky Lantern, well-known socialist rag. The new U.S. House Speaker, Mike Johnson, successfully took Kentucky to court to regain tax incentives for the Ark Encounter, a 510-foot wooden replica of the biblical Noah's Ark located off Interstate 75 in Grant County. The state tourism cabinet, let me take another whack at that. The state tourism cabinet had awarded the project a sales tax rebate worth up to $18 million. But Governor Steve Beshear's administration withdrew the offer in 2014, saying the Ark's builders, Answers in Genesis, had changed the project's mission from tourist attraction to religious ministry. Now let's pause there for a moment. I have not read this article, by the way. I keep trying to Salty Saturday it, where I give you a genuine impression. But I'm really not doing Salty Saturday content. I don't know why. But let me. My only point is I don't know if they talk about this. I'll tell you what I recall from this scandal. Why? Why would he switch it from a tourist attraction to a religious ministry? Why, oh why would he do that? Well, because of how much you have to pay people who work for a religious organization. That's who Ken Ham is. And also in the face of things like not getting the kind of sales, whatever, attendance that he promised. In addition, let me just say this. Mike Johnson looks like Pierre Poliver, doesn't he? I can't even say that. Pierre in Canada. I feel like they were cloned in the same evil vat. The state tourism cabinet had awarded the project a sales tax. Yep, going down. The state cited website postings and statements at investors' meetings to support its decision. Johnson, a member of the Louisiana legislature at the time, was CEO and chief counsel of Freedom Guard, a public interest law firm, blah, 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 in Louisiana that he founded. Freedom Guard represented Answers in Genesis in challenging the state's denial of incentives. Johnson appeared in a 24-minute video with we're watching that. That's not what this is about. That is now what this stream is about. We are watching that with Ken Ham, founder and CEO. Ken Ham is as bad Sorry for using that word, pups. Ken Ham is as terrible in front of a camera with as Donald Trump is. Founder and CEO of Answers to Genesis talking about his work and lawsuit against Kentucky. U.S. District Judge Gregory Van Tatenhove in 2016 ruled in favor of Answers in Genesis, saying the state's exclusion of the Ark from the tourism tax incentive based on its religious purpose and message violated First Amendment. Johnson was quoted at the time as saying, "The court has affirmed a long-standing principle that the Constitution does not permit a state to show hostility," blah, blah, blah. For the record, it didn't. They were wrong. The court was simply wrong in this decision. The Answers in Genesis, aka the organization responsible for this, the Ark Encounter, just fleeced the government. They said it was for anybody to come on in and to be a tourist thing that people would like that non-Christians would bring their kids to, just to see, ooh, this is what these folks believe. How interesting. Which, for the record, if this guy wasn't a psychopath that was preaching hate constantly, I would absolutely. I would go to just out of curiosity. Like if somebody recreated other biblical miracles with special effects and what have you, just to say, like, this is the kind of stuff that we say used to happen, I would go attend that. It's just that Ken Ham is also, like, a bigot and just constantly fleecing his own people. Moving along. That's what he was pitching it as. Something that would attract people to come there. But that's not what it ended up being. And to pay his employees less and to have less legal responsibility, because he can't, like any true ultra right-wing nut job, he can't run anything well responsibly. He switched what it was filed as. Well, like what kind of business it was. Well, when he did that, he no longer was eligible for the tax incentive that he had been given, because the tax incentive was not to have yet another church. The tax incentive was to have tourism in the area. But it was successfully argued by Mike Johnson. He successfully helped fleece the taxpayers for Ken Ham's evil little museum. We're reading that frickin' thing. We're reading that. Or we're going to see a video anyway. Answers in Genesis. Oh, God, I can't wait. You know what? Before we see the video, I'm tempted. No, let's just watch the video. Stand by. I'm getting that URL. Sorry, folks. I get it first, because I'm looking at the preview before I show it to you. Oh, I can't wait. Ken Ham is a silly, silly man. He doesn't mean to be. And normally it's not nice to laugh at people who are silly but don't mean to be. But Ken Ham, I will point out, is also an evil, evil man. All right, we're going to take a quick break from making fun of Ken Ham. We're going to check out that video in a moment. First, I do want to, first of all, read some comments. Second of all, get to the title of the video, what jail could do for Trump. and then we will watch some Ken Ham hilarity. The indigenous heretic. I was never a Christian. I was a believer in traditional Native American beliefs from my tribe, Lakota, so I had no holy books. Interesting. Interesting. I would love it if you could tell us a little bit about what those traditional beliefs are, and if you stopped believing them, what was the moment that made you think, I don't believe this? Oof, public utility and thousands of years of progress thwarted. PNC Bio, good to see you. Imagine all the amazing things the United States could get done if your highest levels of government got things done. Has to be a way to get you guys government that works for the people. Yeah, I think there is. Oh, the anti-corporatist, good to see you. Tinkerbell, hello. He does invite mockery by being a freaking joke. Anti-corporatist saying they put 30 million voting locations in their districts and one for 4 million people in dem districts. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Soul Life says poodle leg ite angry cancel. I have no idea. I'm sorry. All right, gang. Let's talk about it. A quick thought I had. I want to share with you on Salty Saturday. You know, I've been less and less following the details of Trump's trials. It's not that I don't think they're important. It's just that I think I know my audience pretty well, and by the time I am able to do one video on those that will have any relevance, 7 will be done by people with similar shows, and I see that as a blessing, frankly. Takes the pressure off me. I don't have to explain this sort of stuff, and even better, I don't have to know this sort of stuff, because the courts are meant to be separate from you and me, and it's good that it is that way. You and I will never have as much information as a juror. Good. That is how it should be. We are represented. Don't worry. We're represented in the courtroom by the jury. Unless, of course, the dingbat lawyer of a well-known con artist doesn't check the box that says jury and instead opens themselves up to a bench trial, in which case, even better. So let's talk about that specific trial and how Trump is goading the judge. He's asking for it. I think intentionally. I think he's literally asking to be tossed in jail because I think he wants to make a big scene. I don't think he really understands what discomfort is. I think discomfort is just, it's a concept that he is aware of, but has never experienced. It would be like me being aware of the fact that it's possible not to nail a 3-point shot. It's never happened to me. So how would I know how that feels? Or a blind woman being aware that or a colorblind woman being aware that there is something perceptibly to most people different about a red popsicle and a green popsicle. But to her, I mean, she can't picture what that would be like. That's Trump with discomfort. So I think he thinks he knows how he'll feel if his head should ever touch a lice infested jail pillow, or if he ever needs to rest the bones of his spine on the napkin that that jailers call a mattress. I think he has an image of how he'll feel, an idea of how he'll feel, and it's wrong. I don't know if he's actually trying to get tossed into jail. I honestly, and I will point out that this is wild speculation from somebody who is not only not a lawyer, but hadn't even been asked to be in a courtroom for any reason other than I've committed minor offenses. which I took my fine for like a champ. Uh, I think what he might be trying to do is goad the judge into saying something unprofessional, or going too far with punishment, or going far enough that Trump can say it's too far. I think Trump is trying to increase the amount of things he can point to and say, look how brutal they're being to me. Frankly, and unfortunately, I think the judge is waiting for somebody to die from Trump's rhetoric so that they can say, now you see, we are justified. What annoys me is that if you have a head on your shoulders, you shouldn't need the person, the horror, the consequences first. You should be able to say this behavior will have predictable outcomes. But Trump keeps pushing it, and he keeps pushing it, and he's going after court staff. Now, the judge wants the person, in my, again, wild speculation. This is just me being a pessimist on Salty Saturday. The judge wants the person be sacrificed so that nobody yells at the judge for imprisoning Trump. They want that person to be a stranger. The judge doesn't want to know the victim. The sacrificial lamb is supposed to be a stranger. It's supposed to be someone that doesn't matter, like me and you. It's supposed to be one of us, the people, just like when bombs explode and kill children. It's a tragedy if that happens here, and if it happens in Gaza, it's the way it's supposed to be. That's where brutality is supposed to be, on the Browns. And when the right-wingers go crazy because they listen to Trump and they kill somebody, it's supposed to be you, and it's supposed to be me, and that's how the world works well. That's how we know everything's in its right place, when you and I are getting killed by these people. And then the judge in Trump's trial, in Goron, and then he can safely, from his 3-story house, say, now nobody will be mean to me. Now nobody will be terse with me. Now I can be justified amongst my fancy friends for putting Trump in jail for a day. Now, I'm going to set aside whether that's right or wrong. Set that aside for a moment. I can't. We're going to get to the point after this tangent, I guess. That's wrong just for so many reasons. But let's just take one and only talk about one. It's wrong because it's a terrible strategy. The people who would have been convinced by seeing the evil act done to one of us don't exist. They don't exist. The people who Engoron would hope to convince that Trump actually does really need to have some real world consequences. They don't care if you or I die. They think that's a good thing. And they will hope it keeps happening. And no matter what circumstances the judge orders Trump to be imprisoned, even if Trump picks up a kitchen knife, runs to the court, and does nothing but try to stab Engoron to death constantly, those people will not accept that as a valid reason to put Trump in jail. Okay, tangent over. Now we can set it aside. But setting that aside, Trump has gone too far. He is picking people the judge knows. He is threatening the judge himself. He's threatening the judge's law clerk or whatever, the court clerk, I don't care. The judge's helper. That's not who the sacrificial lamb is supposed to be. And this might actually make Engoron or one of the other judges toss Trump in jail. For maybe just a night. One night. Cool your jets, buckaroo. I think that might actually be good for Trump. But I think it would be great for us. I think it would be good for Trump because he, strange as this might seem, not that he deserves any goodness at all, but strange as it might seem, I do think he deserves an understanding of the punishment that is being discussed. When people say 20 years in this place, 10 years in that, frankly, Mr. Trump, the rest of your life in this environment. He has no experiences with hard mattresses or no air conditioning or nearby violence. Well, he will never have to worry about violence, but discomfort. He has no experiences with discomfort to draw from, to understand whether or not. Sorry, I have a poltergeist in here. That's a bit of a scamp. He has nothing to draw from by which he can make a decision. It's good for the prosecutors as well. We talked a couple days, weeks, I don't know. I've been watching kids die on the other side of the world and being increasingly sad about that. Some time ago, we talked about what if Trump takes a plea deal? I don't think that's out of the question. He's still the guy they're trying to get, but that doesn't mean they won't take a plea deal. Here's a plea deal that is unjust, but I would encourage the government to consider. Or rather, let me take that back. I wouldn't encourage them to consider this, but I would understand. Let me put it like this. It's a deal that's unjust, but it's one we might hear about, and I would understand if the government offered it. I wouldn't be happy, but I would get it. Trump agrees to admit he lost the 2020 election. Trump agrees to never run for public office again. Trump agrees to never discuss anything related to any of these cases with the media, with anybody. He's not allowed to even have a thought about Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton or Vladimir Putin. Fill in the blanks with all the Trump behavior that exists. He must cooperate, yada, yada. You get it. In exchange, parole. 20 years of parole. If he violates any of that, including and especially spreading lies about the 2020 election, spreading lies about the 2024 election, if he violates whatever those conditions are, it's revoked. Parole revoked. And he does go to prison. Why would I be satisfied or not sad? Why would I understand that? Because the top priority, just like I find myself often arguing on behalf of politicians that I don't personally like all that much. The top priority for us all has to be securing democracy in the United States. Without that, nothing else matters. Without that, it just becomes Mad Max times. Can't have it. Cannot have it. Must have democracy. Thing number 2 that would make me okay with it, a parole that is dependent on Trump not lying about this stuff, is at any moment, if you or I wanted to get Trump tossed in prison, all we would have to do is walk up to him with a cell phone broadcasting live and say, "Did you win in 2020?" And he'll violate his parole, and we can go right back to it. Toss his ass in prison. Just don't do that until the election's over, please and thank you. Anyway, that was a thought I had. That's something Trump might gain from jail. Perspective. And the prosecutors might push. The prosecutors might be thinking, this guy ought to know what we're talking about when we say we'll throw him in jail. They might push the judge to put him in jail for a night, for a weekend maybe. Just so he's clear on exactly what it is he'll be enduring for the remainder of his days. Just a thought. The Anti-Corporatists. Lawrence O'Donnell's show had a bit on this the other night. Ooh. This guy got charged for making death threats to the sheriff and DA in Fulton County. So it begins. Wait, who showed me that? Did somebody show me that? I think Mike might have. It wasn't you. Did I see that? I'm losing it, y'all. I saw a Lawrence O'Donnell thing recently that was fantastic. Maybe that's what got me used to it. Rextrack, Jake used terse, and then you sons of peace, and then PNC Bio wrote terse. Here's the thing. I was gonna say when I read Rextrack's comment, I use the word in speech all the time. I've never written it to my knowledge. At least not without the assistance of a phone to autocorrect for me, because I have no idea how to spell it. Yeah, maybe PNC Bio's right. I don't know. The Anti-Corporatist. Was it Brian Tyler Cohen who pointed out that his insomnia, which he has admitted to, causes cognitive decline? Well, that wouldn't surprise me. The Indigenous Heretic, there are tons, yes it was by the way, there are tons of beliefs that, I just remembered, that Lakota carry around. But among them, that I had to unlearn in order to become an atheist is, let me try that again. There are tons of beliefs that Lakota carry around, but among them I had to unlearn in order to become an atheist. In fact, the major one was belief in an afterlife and all that entails. Interesting. I have a pretty wild theory on the afterlife, but it would take some fleshing out before sharing it. For the record, I am an atheist. Gypsy Mama, the prosecution represents the people. True, but if that's in reference to my discussion of the people being represented in the courtroom, I was talking about in the decision making part of that. The prosecution, they represent, in my opinion, they represent an aspect of the people. But fundamentally, they are not the people. The literal the people are sitting behind everybody in the benches behind the trial, and their only tangible involvement is as either witnesses or the jury. And I say they're not the people because they're there doing a job, as opposed to people with other jobs who have been pulled away from that in order to witness this trial. And I don't have I should say that's not like, you won't open up a textbook and see like, and by the way, mouthy Lithuanians think this. It's just my perspective as an observer myself. It's just my feelings. There we go. I think to some degree the role of non-professionals must be maintained. I think you have to I think if you are a judge or a jurist at all, such as a lawyer or whatever, the standard for proving a thing happened or didn't happen should revolve around your ability to explain it to somebody who does not litigate these issues for a living. And when you talk about criminal and civil trials, I think the importance of that it becomes greater and greater and greater. Versus like contract negotiation, when everybody that this contract applies to will have an intimate understanding of the business they're talking about or whatever. In that case, yes, it makes perfect sense that you don't need unrelated people in there. But if it's a criminal matter or even some civil matters, I like the idea that it must be established to the satisfaction of people that would otherwise have no idea about any of this stuff. Scott Ward, I didn't have the option to chat a while ago. Ooh. I got to tell you, YouTube recently has been showing names with different colors, and they notified creators of a change of some sort that I chose not to read, and perhaps I should have read it. I will now. Piggy butt, is that your ethnicity? Mouthy Lithuanian? Yeah. Scott Ward, I didn't. Oh yeah, we read that, but I don't have an answer. I'm sorry. Good to see you, by the way. Yes, indeed, Foxy. Looney Tunes saying to Foxy, tell your son that old Looney said for him to go to bed. Doc, you're punished. Oh, no. Yeah, I don't know what's up with that, man. Didn't give me the option to chat. I had to restart YouTube. Oh, that could have just been it. I don't know. I'm speculating. All right, gang. I have not seen this. I've only seen the opening frame. But it's from Ken Ham, which means it's going to be gold. Hey, gang, quick survey. Who here has seen anything with Ken Ham before? Just in the chat, toss a hand up if you've seen anything with Ken Ham before. I want to get a sense before we go in of how familiar y'all are with this guy. Because in my opinion, he is the most ridiculous human being that like nobody's heard about outside of very specific communities. Looney Tunes, not me. Anybody else? Ken Ham, yay or nay? Have you heard of him? I hope nobody has. You're in for a treat. There's Ken Ham, and who is that other guy? Who's the other guy? He sounds like this. Talks. Oh, PNC Bio's seen him. All right. Piggy Butt only watched in order to mock. Soul Life, why is there no ham emoji? There could be. There very much could be. Didn't he debate Bill Nye once? The indigenous heretic. Yes. Public utility can scam from down under. Yes, indeed. Wireless Mike, I've seen him. Excellent. And good. Then y'all who know will appreciate this. If you haven't seen him before, fucking buckle up. Buckle up, my friend. Here he is in a video from 8 years ago, talking to the man who would become Speaker of the House. Lord help us.
President and CEO of Answers in Genesis, the Creation Museum, and the coming Ark Encounter project. I'm here today with Mike Johnson, who's Chief Counsel for Freedom Guard, a religious liberty defense organization, because Answers in Genesis is launching a lawsuit against the state of Kentucky that really involves freedom of religion, free exercise of religion, freedom of speech in this great nation of America. I'm here to discuss those details.
In this great nation of America. He's just like, he's helping me sue you, mouth breathers. And I'm pretty sure it's going to work. It's just, yeah. Okay, so the ghoul haunting the suit on the left without the tie, that's Ken Ham. And you will be able to see a boyish Mike Johnson on the right. Let's oh, I can't wait to dive into this. Let's find out, before the Ark Encounter even opened, what was the legal shenanigans they were pulling on the state of Kentucky.
Details with Mike so that we understand the background, why we're doing what we're doing, what has happened, what has gone on to bring us to this particular position right now at Answers in Genesis. Well, welcome, Mike. We're right here in the fabrication shop of the Ark Design Studios, where a lot of hard work is going on, getting the Ark exhibits ready for the life-size Noah's Ark that opens next year. But we have an issue before us in regard to litigation with the state of Kentucky and numerous bloggers.
I do want to say one thing, and that is that I'm pretty sure Ken Ham is just a Q-tip being haunted by the spirit of an evil Victorian boy. But the other thing is, the Ark Encounter is genuinely a really neat-looking thing. Like, I saw Aaron Ra did a tour of it. I want to check it out. It's very neat looking. Most of the exhibits, like most of what's cool about it, is just the structure of the building. Like the exhibits are mostly just like a plaque, and that, c'est la vie. But, the building's cool. Successfully made a cool building. Let's find out why it was a legal scam.
Media outlets have spread a lot of misinformation about the tax rebate program and also a lot of false information about employment laws as they relate to the Ark Encounter project. But
he really is exactly what pastors hope you are imagining when somebody says the words good Christian. Mike Johnson is. I didn't realize the tax rebate thing started before the Ark Encounter even opened. I thought he had been paying employees for at least a year before he switched gears on it. But Owen Morgan will have to set us straight in the future. Onward.
Before we get into all the details, Mike, would you tell us a little bit about yourself, the organization you're from, and why you're involved in helping Answers in Genesis in regard to this lawsuit against the state of Kentucky?
Sure, Ken. Thanks for having us. It's an important cause, and we're so grateful that Answers in Genesis has the temerity to take this stand. Freedom Guard is a not-for-profit public interest law firm dedicated to the defense of religious liberty in America. And as you know, that's a liberty that's under increasing assault, and there's a lot of work to be done to defend that. Our organization's purpose.
I just want to be clear, because we should never let these punks get away with saying this. Religious liberty is not under assault, or rather, Christians' religious liberty is not under assault, and it never, in the United States of America, never has been. It never has been. The only thing that has ever had any resistance whatsoever, which we need much more of, is a Christian's ability to force other people to live the way the Christian wants them to live. And a good Christian should be on the side of the other people there. If you arguing this entirely from a Christian's perspective, you need to give those people the opportunity to choose God. Won't mean anything if they're forced to carry a Bible. They have to pick it up. From my perspective, I'll knock your teeth out if you try to put it in my hands. That's all I'm going to use it for. Me and Dracula, baby. Don't you do it. All right, let's go back to... I don't know. Mike Johnson looks older as a younger man. He actually looks... All right, let's go back to 80-year-old time-traveling Mike Johnson.
Is to educate the government and citizens about important constitutional rights. Important among those is the right to the free exercise of religion. Freedom Guard is joined in this case, as you know, by the Center for Religious Expression, which is our colleagues at another top religious defense organization, and they do this work in the courts around the country. And we've defended these cases for nearly 20 years, our organizations in the federal and state courts around the nation, and we provided our legal services and litigation services to persons of faith and organizations, and even sometimes to government officials who are on the right side of these issues. And we're nonprofit organizations, so we provide all of our services as a public interest. It's free of charge to our clients, and we're happy to do that. It's our mission. It's what we do, and we're delighted to be serving your cause in this important case.
Mike, before we get into some of the background details, why don't you give us a summary of what this lawsuit is really all about?
I don't believe for one moment that Freedom Guard is a genuine nonprofit. As in, I don't believe that they do what they do without significant compensation. I'm betting their compensation, and I have not looked this up. I want to be crystal clear. If I wind up being right, feel confident in tossing this out there because I'm probably not right. but I want to make this guess anyway. I think Freedom Guard gets their money from right-wing billionaires. Or millionaires, whatever. Right-wing nutsos. I think they get essentially paid a retainer to go out and make trouble for anyone they can. I think they are legal thugs, or were legal thugs. And I think we must outlaw this sort of legal thuggery if that is found to be the case, because such organizations do exist, and I think Freedom Guard is probably one of them. I will look it up and let you know.
About and why you are leading the charge here with Answers in Genesis in regard to what's happening with the state of Kentucky.
Well, this legal action has become necessary because the state of Kentucky has taken some adverse action with regard to the ministry. What they've done, in effect, is engaged in viewpoint discrimination. They have decided to exclude this organization from a tax rebate program that's offered to all applicants across the state. The way this is set up is under state law in Kentucky, as in many states, they offer a tax incentive program, and they say if you're going to build a large tourist attraction, we'll incentivize you from coming here instead of going to a neighboring state, for example. And we'll say that over the course of years, if you hit certain performance standards, then we'll rebate back to you a portion of the new tax dollars that you generate. As you know, Answers in Genesis and its subsidiaries met all the requirements for that under any objective criteria, but suddenly they're being effectively blocked from this program. That's an unlawful action on behalf of the state, and unfortunately, sometimes you have to go to court to get those things rectified.
So the tourism incentive here in Kentucky has nothing to do with a facility like the Ark project using taxpayer money to build it, because $0 are used from the state to build it. It's just a rebate program after it's open and
Yeah, it's a rebate in taxes. So taxes you didn't have to pay, that other people would have had to pay. You understand, Ken Ham? I mean, he ended up winning this in court, because I don't think Kentucky was all that interested in ruling against a Bible attraction. But I mean, yes, that's what a rebate is. It's tax money back.
generating sales tax, and it's all because it's bringing economic impact to the community, to the state. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, a different kind of economic activity. For example, if you were a tourist attraction as opposed to a religious ministry, you would have to pay your employees at a different rate. Those people would then have more money, which they could use to build lives in the area. You understand? They live better lives in the area. They can buy more things in the area. They buy nicer cars, more clothes, maybe a house in the area, thus justifying the rebate. But when you pay them based on it being a religious ministry, and you can get away with paying them 3 kernels of corn per year of work, they have less to spend in the area. Thus, it does not help justify the rebate. In addition, I want to really stress that Ken Ham made this seem like he was opening up a Bible-themed SeaWorld. And what he really did was put a very nice facade on a building. Again, I want to give it compliments here because I mean it. It's a very nice facade, but it is just a dressed-up building. Not... If water, for example, were to flood the area, the Ark Encounter wouldn't float. And I know this because that happened, and they experienced flood damage at the Ark Encounter. Anyway, let's go back to watching Ken Ham. Where are you looking?
And secondly, what's happening is really a violation of the laws in this nation that allow the free exercise of religion.
That, at its essence, is what all of this is about.
You know, when
It
Answers
is
in
not.
Genesis was looking for a place for the Ark Encounter project, we had a real estate agent search Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and that person came up with a number of possible sites. But
This is another common tactic for this kind of con artists. They like to tell you how things could go poorly for you. There's another person who does debates, and this is a Christian of some sect. And he always ends his with, well, you know, if you're wrong about this, you're going to end up in a real hot place. It has to end with a threat. It has to end with that swipe at your emotions instead of whatever argument you just made. I suspect that's what let me try this. I suspect that's what he's about to do. Ken Ham. And I wonder, as a younger Mike Johnson is watching him, I wonder how much of this he picked up. Let's see. Let's see first of all if it is a threat, and then let's watch Mike Johnson's career and see if he has learned how to make these subtle threats as well. Ooh, this expensive project, I could build at other places.
But the tax incentive program here in Kentucky was very attractive in regard to ensuring that we stayed in Kentucky and built this facility in Kentucky. Tell me, people say that, oh, but if you're receiving a benefit from the government because you're getting a tax rebate, you can't do that as a religious organization, the separation of church and state and so on. How do you react to those sorts of accusations that we see in the media and from many of the bloggers?
Well, it's based on misinformation and a misunderstanding about the law. Look, it's
all.
very well established in federal and state law that religious organizations get to be treated just like any other in a program like this. When you have a facially neutral, that's what we call it in constitutional law, a facially neutral tax incentive program that the government effectively opens it to all applicants. Just because an applicant happens to be religious does not mean that they can be treated differently. They can't be excluded from the program just because.
Withdrawn. My own criticism, withdrawn. No, that is true. But I do want to point out, and this is where I apparently disagree with the state of Kentucky, because we know this does not turn out the way your old pal Jake wanted. It was always known that this was going to be the Ark Encounter. It was not about it being a religious organization, and they are dishonestly right now saying that's what it was. No, the issue was that it was going to be run as a tourist attraction. It was going to be run as a building whose purpose was to bring in people from elsewhere, bring in all sorts of people from elsewhere, and changing it to a religious ministry changes what the function of the building is, hence making the rebate less valuable. We're going to take the end of Mike Johnson's answer here. I enjoy seeing him being young and less polished in front of the camera.
Their viewpoint. And that's the problem here. Under Kentucky, they have what's called the Tourism Development Act. It's a state statute and others that come from it that say that we're going to offer this incentive to a broad array of persons, all applicants effectively, and we're going to set up objective criteria. If they meet this criteria, if they're going to enhance economic development and bring new tourism dollars to the state, then we're going to allow them to participate in the program. And as you know, over the years, they've given this to a broad, diverse array of applicants. I mean, other museums, other entertainment facilities, other theme parks, for example, even a beer distillery museum. The problem is when Answers in Genesis showed up with the Ark Encounter project, suddenly they say they have a problem with it. They can't do that under federal or state law, and that's why we're going to have to go to court over it.
We hear a lot of information out there, or misinformation, through the bloggers and through the media, but they're claiming that we can't receive this particular benefit, and yet they don't cite the law.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, that neither the state nor the bloggers or anyone has mentioned any law that's on their side, because it doesn't exist, Ken. I mean, the U.S. Supreme Court precedent and the precedent from the federal appellate court
Oh my god, I just figured out Mike Johnson's superpower. He has weaponized being boring. He made Ken Ham seem like he might have an argument. Let me give you context for who Ken Ham is. Really. Here is Ken Ham defeating himself in 90 seconds. Here he is talking with Bill Nye, as was mentioned earlier. And according to the video title, Defeating Himself in 90 Seconds, I am confident that the title will prove to be accurate. Ken Ham is amongst the silliest human beings on the planet.
I'm Tom Foreman from CNN, and I'm pleased to be tonight's moderator. This is a very old question. Where did we come from?
An infinite, all-knowing God who created the universe to show us his power. And oh, he made the stars also. It's almost like, oh, by the way, I made the stars.
What is the one thing, more than anything else, upon which you base your belief?
God made Adam and Eve, land animal kind, sea creatures, and so on. Adam was made on day 6. And so, when you add up all those genealogies specifically given in the Bible, and that's why I would say that the Earth is only 6,000 years. When it comes to then talking about the past, you're not going to be scientifically able to prove that. And that's what we need to admit. You can't prove scientifically the age of the Earth or the universe. Bottom line, as Christians, we can say we know. And I can't ultimately prove that to you.
What, if anything, would ever change your mind?
No. No one's ever going to convince me that, that the Word of God is not true. As a Christian, I can't prove it to you. But the Bible is the Word of God. I admit that that's where I start from.
Mr. Ham, a new question. Do you believe the entire Bible is to be taken literally? For example, should people who touch pig's skin, I think it says here, be stoned?
The Bible says that all Scripture is inspired by God, so God moved people by His Spirit to write His words. I believe it's the creationists that should be educating the kids
Well, let's let them try.
out there, because we're teaching them the right way to think.
Okay. So to recap, he says in this debate, he says, I won't be able to convince you of anything. I cannot convince you of anything. I believe everything the Bible says. Do you believe this thing the Bible says? Moving on. I think we're going to do a deeper dive into Owen Morgan and Telltale. I've been circling that fella for a while. He's in no need of our subscriptions, but for your own benefit, I recommend subscribing anyway. He's a fascinating character. Fascinating human being. And he does a great Ken Ham breakdown. So does Paula Gia. He does, in fact, regular segments called Ham and Eggs, which is a fantastic Ken Ham breakdown. Also recommending for your viewing pleasure, a fella named Aaron Ra. He is a fella who is an atheist from Texas, and he had the chutzpah to run for office. He's an atheist in Texas named Aaron Ra, so he lost horribly, but he at least got in the fight. He mixed it up a little bit, so good. Y'all, I'm gonna go hang out with these pups. Thank you for joining me tonight. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. I'll see you next time. My name's Jake.